Welcome to the Dallas Duo Podcast,
your weekly wellness coffee date.
We're friends in Dallas, always looking for the best ways to optimize our health
and have fun along the way. We want to talk today about CGMs, which are continuous glucose monitors. And this is something that Whitney actually uses daily in her practice and has tons of experiences and has been using them for years. We're very excited to talk about how just anyone can use it, even if you're not a diabetic.
Which that's the number one fallacy, I think, is that people see CGMs, which you've probably seen them. They're like a quarter-size device on your arm or on someone's arm. And when I used to see them, especially when I was working in endocrinology, I would just assume that that person had type 1 or type 2 diabetes. And what's so interesting and why we're talking about it today is because this was actually one of the best things that I did for my health. Individuals don't realize that blood sugar is a valuable tool, and stabilizing blood sugar and specifically having low insulin levels and reducing insulin resistance is such a powerful tool for preventing disease, improving energy, supporting your hormone production. And we see that when we have good, stable blood sugar, that so many of the things that get us to good, stable blood sugar is what produces optimal health. And so I actually wore a CGM when I was working in endocrinology, and I wore it because I wanted to be a good advocate for my patients. I didn't realize that it was going to literally change my life. At that time, I was really obsessed with like a low calorie diet and cutting as much body fat as I could. And because of that, I was eating a pretty high carbohydrate diet with not necessarily nourishing foods. So like my snack at lunch would be like Skinny Pop and a like Diet Coke. And I remember we had a Libre rep come in office and he put a device on me, and I ran to the store and I was sitting in traffic, like having road rage, and the device went off. Like I was having elevated blood sugar. And then I had my Skinny Pop snack on the way back to the office with like a double shot of espresso, and my blood sugar was through the roof. And like I got back and I had like a couple bites of apple, and I remember sitting and looking at that monitor and being completely shocked that my blood sugar was rising. And I think what people don't realize is that our body is dynamic, that our blood sugar moves even if we don't have diabetes, that it's okay and normal to have blood sugar that moves. But the thing that I didn't understand was that there were much better ways to support my body with nutrition. And it really got me out of calories in, calories out, because I saw that when I ate that and I had this huge blood sugar rise, that like a balloon, what goes up must come down. I crashed hard and I was having these huge energy swings during the day. And I could not figure out why. I was eating low calorie, I was active, I was hydrated. And even though I was preaching to my patients this idea of a balanced plate, I was like, I don't need that. That's just for diabetes. And that's what got me into this like balanced blood sugar approach for individuals, because I found that when I started eating a balanced plate that had less of an effect on my blood sugar, it still changed my blood sugar. It's normal to see blood sugar changes, that I felt radically different as a human. And I was still seeing success in like body composition changes, but it felt like the secret biohack. I was like, why is no one teaching this? Why do people not realize that when you eat certain things, it raises your blood sugar? And if you eat them differently or pair them differently, that you may actually feel better. That maybe we don't have to like fear food, but maybe we need to understand the function of food better.
And how it interacts with your body. I think what a lot of people, myself included, what I didn't realize was, how is blood sugar connected to how I feel during the day? Like I just didn't make that connection because I've never had an experience with diabetes or, you
just
having
assume
low
like,
blood
oh, well, if
sugar.
you have high blood sugar, increasing your risk for diabetes. And it's like, no, it could change how you act towards your children. It could change how you sleep.
And it can change
your workout.
your workout, or even how tired or how energized you feel. So my first experience with it was, I did Whitney's Nourishment program, which is also coming up.
Yeah.
So
it's like
exciting.
An 8-week women's metabolism program, and everyone wears a CGM for a month of that program.
Yes. And so I wanted to do it just as kind of like a fall refresh. And I also wanted to learn more about blood sugar because it's something I, wasn't really well versed in. And so it was really eye-opening to me because I thought, okay, I eat a pretty balanced
Yeah. We
diet
could have
and
done Whole 30
also
together. We could
yes,
have taught the BPFC, this balanced plate approach.
yes, and also even how I, approach my meals. I try to have a balance of carbs, fat, and protein. And I thought
Hmm.
I was doing a pretty good job. And so it was very eye opening because, you can see the data
And
in
it's like,
real time.
no wonder I'm feeling that way.
And there were some things that I saw that I was like, okay, like I'm doing this well. Like my lunches are
Mhm.
fantastic. I can see why, like, I don't really, usually experience a dip in energy
Yeah.
in the
Like, no wonder I'm
afternoon.
satiated for so long.
Yes, but then I was like, "Oh, maybe breakfast needs work." I'm having more of like this roller coaster situation going on,
Hmm.
and I learned a lot. It was very eye-opening. I loved having the data right in front of me because there's an app that, you just pull up and it's tracking the whole time.
Which I think it is, like you're saying, it's kind of like a nutrition 2.0. I
Mm,
don't recommend this for people who are like just getting into nutrition, just understanding food. But like if you have already been like trying to prioritize a protein rich diet and you're trying to like diversify carbohydrates to have more fiber and you're trying to build a balanced plate, this is kind of the unique next step that says, like, okay, how could I optimize this for me and my body? Now that I'm
yes.
already hitting my protein goals, maybe I'm already kind of hitting my macros, but maybe I want to know, like, do I tolerate sweet potatoes better in the morning or at night? Or
Mm,
do I just do better with like berries and legumes? It does give you kind of this customized approach and it is unique. And it isn't something that I would understand unless I had were certified in diabetes, like taught anywhere.
yeah, and it was so valuable also to, have the data, but then to also be able to discuss it with you, go over like where I could make
Yeah,
modifications and maybe recommendations. And it's so individualized because it's your unique body. And
yeah.
so, but I guess I'll give an example of one thing that really surprised me is that so I love avocado toast. Sometimes I make it at home, but also like I love the one here in Dallas at Lala
Lala.
Land. And so I was like, oh, well, they put plenty of avocado on it. Like
So much
surely
healthy fat.
it's gonna,
So much
it's gonna be fine, but it's also on a pretty healthy piece of sourdough, which
yeah.
again, fine. And I usually order it with a boiled egg on top, hard boiled egg. And so I was like, wow, this is not gonna have that much of an impact. And so I was shocked to see that it did give me a pretty big spike. And again, for your blood sugar to raise after you eat, like that's
Normal. We're
normal.
looking for like 40 to 50 points, but we're looking for like hills and not mountains,
Hmm.
essentially.
Yeah, and so I was pretty surprised that when I had such a big spike and then I was like, "Okay, well, what do I do?" And, so she was like, "Well, you can add some more protein with it
Yeah.
or have like maybe a jerky stick before you have
Yeah,
that or,
protein load.
just kind of tweak it a little bit so it doesn't have that much of a spike." But
But it does
yeah.
reiterate the point of like that meal in your head, you're like, that meal has protein, but that doesn't mean it's protein rich. That meal has an egg, but an egg is not enough protein for what I need at breakfast. It like
Yes.
reiterates things that you're probably already learning. For me, it reiterates things that my stubborn patients are like, sure, whatever. And then they see the data and they're
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah,
Yeah, because I
now
mean,
I
an
get
egg
it.
is only what, like 7
7
or
grams of
8 grams
protein.
of
Yeah.
protein. So really, you need like 3 times
Yeah.
that.
So Lala, we would like you to put 3
Yes,
eggs on your
three.
toast and you can charge everybody $23 or whatever.
No, be honest, I'd probably still order it. I
It does just give you that data to be like, okay, like this is not stabilizing my blood sugar in the way that I expected. This may not make me feel as good as I want. Like, do I still
Mhm.
have, like my favorite cookies with coffee? Yeah. Does it spike my blood sugar? Yes. But if I wanted to choose to have jerky prior or
Yeah.
whatever, I know what I can do. And
Yes.
exercise specifically makes your body so much more insulin sensitive, meaning that you tolerate carbohydrates better, you absorb them better. And so we see, like, based on the time of day that you're eating carbohydrates and what
Mhm.
type you're eating, that you may actually do better with them. So it kind of gives you this, again, biohack to
Mhm.
say, love sweet potato toast or I love hash browns. And if I do them after breakfast, I actually have a better blood sugar response, better energy than if I did them before I work out.
Yeah. And you made a really great point that this might be something that's a better tool for people that are already kind of comfortable and feel like they're in a good place with their
Yeah.
nutrition because
Otherwise,
if
it's a lot of data.
yeah, because if this was like step 1, it would have been very overwhelming, and I
Yeah.
don't think I would have even gotten as much out of it
Yeah.
because I wouldn't have understood really, like, what I was looking for
Which is why
or
it's so important to do like with a healthcare practitioner
mhm.
and a platform that gives you feedback. So I use 2 different platforms and both of them give you like weekly insights to say, like, these meals worked so great for your blood
Mhm.
sugar and these meals we could consider remodeling. But again, we want that support because it is so much data, but we want you to be able to execute it in a way that fits your lifestyle. Like we're not planning on you, going keto. That's not the goal. But the
Yeah.
goal is to know like, hey, you do really well with these foods at this times and this amount. And we just want to support that, I think, education. But it's not something like I wouldn't order Libre and do it by myself because it's not going to give you any data and real insights specifically. You're just going to see this drawing and not really know what it means. Where I would really want to make sure I was doing it with some sort of feedback program.
I learned a ton from doing it and just got some really good insight as to where I was doing good, but also where I could do better.
Yeah.
And I also like that it sets a range for you. Yeah, of a
Yeah.
range to work with.
Which which again is why the ones that I do for individuals without diabetes, it has different ranges than the ones that have diabetes. So like if you were to just buy Stelo or Libre over the counter, it's going to have this range of 70 to 180, which is for individuals who are on diabetes medication or
Mm.
have diabetes and pre-existing insulin resistance. We're trying to focus on optimal health. And so the ranges are different. They're usually like 70 to 140. Some of them are 70 to 120. And they're more customized to individuals who are trying to prevent disease and not reverse it.
Oh, so it's a bigger range then if you
Mhm.
don't have
Yeah.
okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have one that we can
I
show like what it
do.
looks like? So
Yeah.
size wise, I want you to see it's really small. Frequently asked questions. People always ask like, how big is it? So it's pretty small. This is the applicator device. And then there's not a needle in your arm. It's a microfilament. And that microfilament gets left in your arm. It's about a quarter of an inch deep and it's soft. So you don't have any needles. The needle gets retained in the inserter. So even when you're throwing it away, you don't have to throw it away in a certain device. You can just throw it away in the trash can. And then each one is anywhere from 10 to 14-day wear, depending on which company you choose. And you can take it on and off your arm yourself. And you also do the insertion yourself. For needle phobic individuals, I have put them on in like Whole Foods bathrooms or come to their house before, but you can easily put it on yourself.
And that was one of my not fears. I'm not really afraid of needles, but I just worried how it would feel if it would be
Yes.
uncomfortable. But really it's not. You just kind of forget it's there.
Yeah. And you get over tape to go
Yeah.
over it. So, like, if you're a really sweaty human or if you work out in a lot of heat or just live in Texas, there is over tape that you can constantly reapply.
It's not technically a needle then, right? It
Arm.
looks like a whisker.
Yeah, it does look like a whisker.
for
Yeah.
la-
Perfect. Yeah, that's a perfect example.
for lack of a better description, it didn't bother me like one bit. It
Yeah.
was very
Most
easy to
people
wear.
really tolerate it. Most people don't have issues with the adhesive, which is another question that I get. There is some stuff you can put on your skin prior, like barrier cream, if you have adhesive allergies. But I find most of my patients end up wearing it at least once when we work together just because it's so insightful. Truly was so validating for me. I remember one time after Pilates, like I hadn't eaten for a while. I was really fatigued and my blood sugar monitor started going off. And I had low blood sugar. And it wasn't dangerous because I have a pancreas that can help raise blood sugar and all those things. But it was awareness to me to say, it's been too long since you've eaten. If
Mhm.
you want to have this schedule of Pilates after work, etc., you need to optimize how you're eating for your best health because
Mhm.
constantly having low blood sugar is a sign that we're not eating as satiating or as often or as filling meals as we need to feel our best.
Yeah. And well, when I wore mine, yeah, I did notice that it was cueing me to maybe work out or walk or do some
Yeah.
squats.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? When you
Yeah.
have a spike, it actually
Wonder
alerts
is
you
like,
to
what
move.
is it telling me to do?
Yes.
So what's so cool is that depending on which monitor you use, this is why I like using one with insights, is that when it sees that your blood sugar is starting to rise, it's going to give you that cue to say, like, hey, it's time to move your body. It's time to
Mhm.
utilize this energy. It's time to utilize this carbohydrate, this sugar that you've consumed. So it recommends that you walk or that you do squats because that utilizes a lot of muscle, which in turn is using glucose in your body, which is carbohydrate. It's giving you a reminder to get active, which is going to help slowly bring your blood sugar back in range. This is something we already talk about, but it always makes me laugh like online when I see people talk about like, oh, this is blood sugar balancing or blood sugar supportive. And it is such a unique process. You have to remember that like somebody who's not board certified in diabetes or who hasn't worn a CGM, or even if you haven't worn a CGM, probably doesn't know how to specifically support your blood sugar outside of the main recommendations because it is so curated. Like some of my patients have such unique responses to food depending on their hormones, their labs, where they're at in their life, how much muscle they have. All of that affects your insulin sensitivity.
Mhm.
And so, like for Andrea, like she could go out for a walk and it would be like, boop, back in range. But I have some patients who have to do more than that to get their blood sugar back in range. And their hydration status matters too,
Mm.
protein intake, electrolytes. It's so multifaceted. But I love that the monitor gives you that feedback
It
because, again,
does.
it's
Yeah.
supportive. It's not just saying your blood sugar is high. Well,
What are you
too
going to do?
bad.
Yeah.
It's like, here's a tool to be proactive
Yeah.
to get back in range.
Yes. And would you say that like you see a big difference as far as the range in, men versus women?
Good question. So I think in general, men tend to have more muscle mass. So because of that, they tend to have better insulin response or blood sugar responses to foods. But that's not to say that's always the case. I find that the CGM is a really powerful tool for men because it's so data based. And men tend to be very data driven, where most of my
Yes.
patients, if I put a CGM on them, like they don't even need me. They're just like, well, I'm just doing what my CGM says, which I love because I don't want to have to micromanage them or be in their pocket all the time. I want them to thrive and they use it as a tool to know where their blood sugar is, especially if we have somebody who has elevated insulin, the thing that's kind of like causing uh, your body to be able to lower that blood sugar down in the first place. If they're trying to lower their insulin levels, we use a CGM in between labs for them to assess like how their numbers are going. Because essentially, if we're not spiking glucose, we're not spiking insulin. So it's a really powerful tool for that reason. But I find that nowadays they're so much more accessible than they used to
Hmm.
be. Like Levels was the first kind of like OG direct to consumer one that we saw on the market. And now you can get it's called Rio Libre 3. And I just order Stello direct to consumer, which I think is anywhere from $89 to $99 for a month subscription. So you would get two sensors and I will use a platform over that. But you're still out maybe like $150 for a month's worth of CGM data, which is so fulfilling. And if you wear it once, you're going to learn so much. It's not something to do forever because it can cause, I think, this data overload and us to be like a little obsessed with the numbers. I kind of feel
Hmm.
that with all
Yeah.
wearables, Whoop, Aura, whatever it
Even
is.
the
Like we just
Apple
don't
Watch,
need
like
to
you can get,
know
yeah, you can get too
all the
obsessed with the
things all the
numbers.
time, but it is like a moment to see like, okay, this is an educational month. I'm going to use it to learn about my blood sugar and you're out $150. Like what an
Mhm.
incredible experience,
Yeah.
especially with any individuals who have a family history of diabetes. I say
Hmm.
like, why not, give
Yeah.
yourself that data. It's so powerful.
Are there any other instances where you would recommend it to a client, like in terms of like if they are at a certain point and they're not seeing
Oh,
results?
sometimes I have patients, skinny fat patients wear it because they tend to be carrying more fat than muscle
Mm.
and they tend to see that they're more reactive to food. And then that gives them the ability to realize, like, wow, I do need to change my diet. When we have elevated glucose constantly, it's really hard for our body
Mm.
to build muscle. We kind of stay in a fat burning state at that point. And so that can be helpful for them. And then I really like individuals to do it before they have a baby. So, like, if you're in a trying to conceive
Oh.
window, it's really, really powerful. There's data to show that it's helpful for fertility because as we're pregnant, our hormones increase insulin resistance, which is normal during pregnancy, but it can decrease the risk of gestational diabetes, which is technically transient diabetes or transient insulin resistance. So if you're really on top of your blood sugar during that trying to conceive window, then as you're pregnant and you know how to balance your plate, you know how to support blood sugar management, you're less likely to then have an elevated blood sugar on that gestational diabetes test where you have to meet with me anyways.
No,
So,
that would be really good insight to know going into being
mhm,
pregnant
yeah.
because, that
And
is a
then some people
worry.
choose to wear them for gestational diabetes instead of pricking their finger, which I suggest because
Mm.
pricking your finger is so,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's a great insight because I didn't even think
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that
just other
before
populations
pregnancy.
that it serves. So,
Yeah.
when I was in office, Mark Cuban was putting it on like himself and athletes. My rep was like, "You wouldn't ever believe that like Mark Cuban's using this for like optimal health with his athletes and performance," but it's true. We know that food has a function, and the way food fuels us is really powerful. And so, stable blood sugar can help that. And so, I was like, "Wow, that's so insightful." And that
Yeah.
started making me wonder, like, could we use this for the regular population? And then we started to see it pop up with Levels and Signos and different companies out there offering it to consumers to say, like, don't wait for
Mm.
diabetes, start now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and do you think there are any indications for using it, say, if you're in perimenopause or going into menopause in that phase of life? Are there any things you think it would really help you hone in on in that phase?
Yeah, good question. I think that CGMs during perimenopause may help you build a case
Mm,
like, against a doctor who may say, like, "Oh, you don't need hormones," or, "Oh, you're
mm,
not in perimenopause," because we can see that as hormones dip, that it tends to increase insulin resistance, and so, like, if you're
mm.
just reacting to water, like, you're reacting to everything you eat and drink, and you that's not your norm, then it may be a case to say, like, "I think I need hormone
Ah,
support here," because hormones, insulin is a hormone, and so if we see that there's discrepancy in your CGM, that could build a case to say, like, it looks like my hormones might be the thing that's affecting this. It's not
yes.
just food that affects blood sugar. And that has really helped a lot of my patients say, like, something's off. These numbers were not like this last year. I think I'm transitioning and I think my hormones are having more effect here.
Okay, so you would be more sensitive and you would be
Yeah.
seen. Okay,
Yeah, you
that
would
makes
have more
sense.
resistance. So you would be like, "Hey, I ate a piece of protein and my blood sugar shot through the roof. What's going on?"
Yeah,
And we would say, like, "Okay, this looks like there may be some other hormones at play
hormonal
here
things.
that are working
Okay.
against you."
Yeah, I'm curious to do it now that I have some better like hormonal support
Yeah.
in place now because I think the last time I did it was like 2 years ago,
Yeah,
but I
something really
didn't
interesting to compare.
yeah, and I didn't have as many perimenopause symptoms in
Yeah,
that during
and
that
again,
time,
like, data is
so
power. Like, I love the idea of being able to trend your data to see, like, well, 2 years ago, these were my numbers, and this is
mhm.
where my numbers are now.
No, I think it's super powerful to know and also just to learn and to be able
Yeah.
to ask questions about it, I think is very valuable. Do you have any discount codes right now? We can put those in the notes if so.
I have a discount for a NutriSenses program, which, is a way for you to wear a CGM with their responsive platform, as well as meet with a dietitian that's insurance covered through their program, which is awesome. Caveat, like, I don't think all of their dietitians are board certified in
Mm,
diabetes, and, like, I feel like that's the thing that really taught me
yeah.
about blood sugar because, like, I didn't really know what insulin was after my master's degree in clinical nutrition, just full insight. It wasn't until 2 years later in another certification, but it's a great place to start, and their
Mhm.
platform's awesome. I use it for my patients, and then besides that, I think that direct to consumer Stelo, we can put that
Mhm.
link in there.
Okay.
I like that one. A lot of patients will order that and then work with me, and we review the data together. And then Signals might be an option too. I think it's a
Okay.
little bit more expensive, but they do have a really nice feedback platform. It's one of my favorites. So there's
Yeah.
3 different options in there we can tag in the
It notes.
notes so that
Yeah.
people have an option. And then you can always just like hit me up, email, DM, whatever, and we can talk through our best option for you. But either way, I feel like once in my lifetime, I would want to wear it because it's
Mhm.
insight that you're not going to find anywhere else. And your neighbor's CGM responses are not the same as yours. Like it's very different.
Yeah, it
Like when you
was
and your husband wore them
it was
together.
so eye-opening to do it, and it almost became as, like, a little competitive because I was like, "Wait, why is yours regulating faster than mine?"
Yeah.
And, like, "What am I doing wrong?" Like, I
You
so
you eat this chip.
yes,
Tell me what happened.
it is crazy, and, I mean, obviously, like, he's has so much more muscle than I do, so
Yes.
this, like, all makes sense, but, yeah, it's interesting to see the discrepancies. So if someone wanted to work with you, how many times do you offer your nourishment program, or what's the best
Good
way to
question.
do
So
that?
I do CGMs in my group program, Nourishment for Women, once a quarter. And then I also do CGMs as a one off in any of my one on one programs. So a lot
Okay.
of times when we're on a discovery call, we'll talk through like, should we add a CGM? Should we add gut testing? Do we add labs? I'm kind of that like a la carte concierge package as needed.
Mhm.
If we need to build it in. And a lot of times, honestly, people come to me like, can you wear a CGM? And I'm like, I don't think you need it right now. And we
Yeah.
add it on later because it could be overwhelming.
Yeah, if
And
you're just
so
starting in that
we wanna be really
journey.
mindful about where you're at in your journey to know if it's going to be the most supportive.
Yeah. I thought the group was really helpful and all the
Yeah.
resources that you provide in the group, like for someone that's looking for like that 6 week support, I think
Yeah.
that's really, really helpful.
Yeah, because it does take time to make changes,
Mm,
and I think if you want to, like, slowly learn and build on your nutrition choices, it's helpful, and being in a group where other people are doing it too and asking questions that you might have not thought of can be a really helpful
yeah.
resource.
Yeah. Cause you
So,
have access to all the portal and you can
yeah,
see
and, like, all
all
the
of that.
educational material.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Well, any final words about CGM or blood sugar bliss that you want to share before we close out?
Man, I think it's so cool that I was never the person to think of like the popular trends or like a predictor of like, the next best thing.
Hmm.
But it's actually been so cool to be specialized in a field that has kind of grown into this like
Hmm.
optimal health biohacking space. I always
Yeah.
thought that when I did it, I'm like, oh, it's for diabetes and like I'm nerdy, I like numbers. And so it's
Yeah.
so cool now to have seen it really open up
Hmm.
into a different subset of like longevity and benefits for health. And I love that I can apply it to different populations that I never never thought it would be a tool for.
That's awesome.
So that part is cool. It makes me feel like it's more valuable.
Yeah, and it's not just a trend, like, it's
No,
based
yeah,
on
it's
numbers,
data.
it's
I love
data, it's
it.
real,
Yeah.
so
Yes, I will plug there is one doctor researcher that I love. Actually, there's two. So Ben Bickman is the number one researcher on insulin resistance. He shares a ton of like
mm,
digestible research on insulin resistance that I'll tag. He has a program called Insulin IQ that I love. And then there is another gal who focuses on low insulin lifestyle, which is kind of like how to
oh,
reverse PCOS and all these insulin resistant symptoms through food that I am obsessed with. So I will put both of their resources on there because I think that collaboration is one of the most powerful things you can do for health. And so both of them are really good follows.
okay.
More so than glucose goddess, I think that insulin is the precursor to good blood sugar. And so
Mm,
it's not that we just want to pack on a bunch of protein and fat on top of our carbohydrates. We want to kind of reverse why the blood sugar is spiking in the first place.
mm.
And they're a better follow for that.
Okay, awesome. Well, yeah, I love that you included those resources.
Yeah, I'm excited for, like, more biohack tools that we get to talk about,
Yeah, me
so,
too, and let us know which ones you wanna hear about
yeah,
next.
like
We're open
Oura
to that.
Ring,
I'm trying to think what else is
IVs, hyperbaric chamber,
yeah, there's a lot out
ozone,
there.
so many things out there,
Yes.
so, cool.
Alright, till next time. Bye.